groundwork for what teams are working with. And already starting off with the UMass Beacons. We're going to go with Murphy's, Thomas, Vision, Billy, Ray, and Wing Sith. So I love just seeing the players' names. Not really the biggest deal in the world because obviously you're going to be hearing them at least 3,000 times over the course of, well, this next 2 hours at minimum, I'd say. But obviously go ahead and get acclimated with those because, well, they're kind of expected to really come into this thing swinging, knowing they're 2-0 compared to the 2-1 of their counterpart, which is going to be that Stevenson University.
Now we take a look over at the Stevenson University lineup. We got Fast, Sister Saltine, Splash, Devant, and Nick. I'm a big fan of the name Sister Saltine. Mick, I don't know about you, but
Like
it's summoning some things inside of me. I kind of want some chili now. A little bit of saltine crackers with that. But hey, we go into the map veto. We got Bind going into Split, and if we need to, the decider of Lotus. So this is actually, in my opinion, Mick, a bit of a shakeup out of what we usually see out of the map pool.
I mean, to some degree, obviously the Bind, I think, is just kind of traditional to some degree, kind of feels in the same bill as Ascent, just not nearly to the same degree Ascent does. But Split is the one that I kind of feel like a little bit of a curveball. This is one of the maps where we can actually see teams kind of have a little bit of a specialization, a much better ground understanding of knowledge of what this map can provide and how to really play it, just because Split can be very, very difficult to maneuver, knowing the verticality of it, that it always kind of feels like an outlier. I'm hoping the next map kind of introduces that same element of verticality, because that's that kind of unique trait about it. But Lotus, that Jet, not seeing arrays on this map, to me, is just a blasphemy. I mean, it's not insane, but it just feels like we've gotten too used to seeing that agent on this map as that signature duelist. Maybe as a secondary, you would maybe get a Reyna here and there, or you could maybe opt for that Jet if you want to go for that defensive side operator play. But seeing it just only being that singular Jet in this circumstance, it's going to have to be something that really stands up the tables here and really proves me wrong because, well, it's your comfort picks. And let's see whether or not that actually gets anything going here.
Wow, right through the wall. Nick is going to grab our first
blood,
my God. Making a second shot. They're feeling dicey with it, feeling pretty good. And the murder scene of showers littered with bodies now as the UMass Beacons are able to push their way finally onto the site. The remnants of Stevenson University needs to go to defuse.
Slow and steady here for this retake. I mean, already looking at the other two players that are remaining, you don't really have too much of an actual retake kind of set up for yourself. You get a Viper, you get a Cypher, and sure, you're okay with that. But, I mean, that kind of sub is much better on the defensive end, on the post plant when you're on that attacking side. And even then more so, if we look at the Arsenal, both of them running classics, it makes things pretty darn difficult when you're up against a Sheriff. So, Murphy's able to go ahead and close out that third kill for the round. Already looking to go for that orbital strike, but even then looking at everybody else and what's going on here, I mean, a very good start from Stevenson University of getting those initial picks. I feel like the aggression was warranted. You saw Nick get the right kills at the right time. The problem is a little bit of an overzealousman, I'd say, and even then more so looking at the rest of the team not really kind of collaborating off that, giving a chance of that escape window. Kind of opened up a little bit too much freebies for the side of UMass to pick up these Sheriffs and kind of just steamroll that site. So now with the purchase underway, and 2 Sheriffs still on the side of Stevenson University, they still want to take some fights, but they're just not probably going to be able to make the round look super winnable. You just want to be expensive.
UMass Beacons, first round on the board. Went over to that A site, now an adjustment to fight it on B. Cypher's over here, but not enough trips really to stop them. Inside of the camera, to figure out how many you're gonna have to deal with exactly. But even with that trip being where it is, Mick, there's no one really watching it until the Cypher finally makes their way over there. But no one's grabbing the bait just yet. Ray finds their first one, gonna swing around, pick up a second, and make that a third kill. Ray's feeling themselves tonight and maybe able to convert the fourth. Nick does have aim on their side, but what they don't have is health. 2 HP. All you need to do is sneeze on them.
Yeah.
Well, Wingston has a little bit more than a sneeze for old Nick. UMass Beacons get the second round done pretty cleanly, all things considered.
Yeah, 4 guns carried over. One of those being a Bulldog, one of those being a Guardian, the other 2 Spectres. I mean, you're not really complaining about that result whatsoever. I mean, you have plenty to work with. And even more so, you do have those Sheriffs to be passing over to Ray. In the meantime, that was picked up off those other 2 players that died. So you're kind of very thankful to know that at least some element of a gun was handed over to you. And even then more so, you do have a couple of rifles being brought into the next one. But it really comes down to excelling and making sure the right players have these guns. I like the Brimstone running the Guardian. You got to have that spacing. I like the Duelist running that Spectre, getting close and kind of comfortable with these close quarter fights. And even then, running the Bulldog, that Gecko, being that all-rounder, able to go ahead and get enough damage to at least find that singular kill on Nick. And you know that that's going to be an avenue now they're going to be looking at, because That's a drop weapon, and that's a free rifle for whoever didn't find it, which was going to be Ray, but he's just not there. He's lurking about somewhere else with that sheriff in hand, looking to find somewhat of a result. And you really can't blame him, considering that you don't have the best weapon in the world. You're just watching that flank, and 900 creds is going to look really good if you can trade that off for 2,700.
UMass Beacon's in a really good spot, though. That early initial jet pick, even though they didn't pick up the weapon, I like the discipline from them to not try and go forward and risk their lives. But so much space is being taken over. Wingsit didn't see Maddie hiding right next to the smoke. Saw Wingman pinged out by the Cypher trip, but the spike being planted, now all onus on Stevenson University to fight and get onto the site to begin that defuse. And so all of the angles covered by UMass Beacons, and even though the firepower isn't up to snuff, should be good enough to be able to accomplish something here. Bring it out! Maddie doesn't need to look behind them. They pick up one. Thomas is gonna try and fight for even more, but Splash has it on the ready. Molly on the ground, trying to stop them, but Mercs just can only do so much by themselves. It's up to Vision Billy in a 1v3. Whatever moments you can get, maybe moot. Wingman's going for the defuse. They're going to try and stop them, but try as they might. Stevenson University holds strong. It's their first round on the board, costly as it may be.
Yeah, I mean, just an insane trade-off, all things here. I mean, looking at the 3-year players dropping, that's a lot of guns, a lot of money just being tossed over nearly for nothing, and knowing that University of Massachusetts, everything was sitting on a bonus for them. They didn't really even buy up. They had a sheriff still in one of those players' hands. We even then saw Thomas able to go ahead and grab a kill with the sheriff as well. So you're looking at everybody else just kind of lining things up and just really taking what they can, and really just finding nothing but an absolute bonus out of that round, knowing they grabbed the majority of the kills. So Stevenson University, the biggest trade away you have in that kind of round is knowing what kind of advantage do we have overarching, and that's going to be those two ultimates. Funny thing is not an advantage. It's just even grounds here, because Gecko and Cypher, you have these same exact two things on the attacking side of the map that this round alone is just purely driven by the economy, where once again, Mass is just kind of winning it out. So we'll see whether they can actually make something out of it, because you got to judge winning on you and Hookah, which could be the determining factor of getting some free upgrades.
I want to say that Maddie is Sister Saltine. For an update, be very careful right here. You're going to walk inside of that door, and Maddie is walking away for free. They almost got away with it, but instead Splash is going to be one to walk away with both of those kills inside of Hookah. Now Nick needs to fight out for even more, but nothing is going to be given to them, and Splash's role has been stopped. This is looking phenomenal for UMass Beacons, even more phenomenal for Thomas, now all alone. Try and go for the retake. Or Devant, maybe a call here to save.
Yeah, not the worst shot in the world. I think knowing that you're nothing but a Brimstone, and sure, while Brimstone can get a lot of things done, have this stuff available to them, making sure the investment here, the Thrash kind of doesn't go to waste, and even then more so just kind of looking for these opportunities, you're good that you know that you bring up the majority of the Beacon's resources in terms of those ultimates. That's the overarching thing that you're kind of constantly concerned about, and knowing that's going to be out of the way, knowing that you're more so just kind of looking at this next round, the potential of that. It comes down to what guns will you have available, what kind of resources will you have in terms of the money, because UMass, as we know, came into this round with better money at the end of things, and Stevenson University, when they're already kind of in a little bit of a drought, last thing you want to do is just go ahead and use up the rest of your water.
Mass Beacons doing it right. Phenomenal way that they went about doing it too, even after they lost so much inside of Hookah. The remaining players that were left alive, just no one from Stevenson could stop them. Put firepower in the hands of this team, put the weapons, put the rifles, and it feels like you give them a chance and an opportunity, even the thinnest of openings, they're gonna barge right in. Now up 3, Stevenson's 1. The only one on the side of Stevenson who has anything to work with is Devon. That's just coming off the last round, them living.
I mean, it's all they're really going to have to work with, and it's all they're going to have to kind of scratch together. No one, I mean, already you do have the Blaze Storm. That's going to be your kind of second best option. But even then sometimes maybe better. But I mean, this is going to be one of those trade-off moments where you're hoping that the Jet will actually go ahead and make that trade-off of not having a raid. Sure, you could go ahead, shove a showstopper right into your enemy's face and find yourself maybe a couple kills off that, or even then, it's better yet, at least one in the gun to trade off, because that's all you're looking for. The Blaze Storm is more of a kind of a setup for the rest of the team. So if that doesn't last until that post plant, if you don't carry on guns for the rest of your squad off the back of that alone, you're not really utilizing it the way you need to.
Fast. It's just the trip. They're going to get caught by Ray instead. Phenomenal headshot. And this is insane from UMass Beacons. How far out they've pushed to just win all of the gunfights that were presented to them. And now Devant is just forced to try and save once more. And you've done that twice in a row now. 2 rounds. Just nothing that UMass Beacons is giving away to Stevenson.
In all those situations, I mean, already the bigger thing that we talk about. I mean, with those circumstances where you know a player was on the other side of those crates, you're waiting it out, a Cypher's probably within proximity, and the showstopper, you shoot that around a corner, you bounce right back, and it's basically a fight that you literally cannot take as a regular player. And with the Bladestorm, you're forced to actually just find those engagements. I mean, we're not looking at cracks really starting to seep through because obviously Stevenson University, they have found themselves at the exact same point in this bracket, exact same point of this season as the UMass has. But all things considered, it's just more so we're going to need to see what exactly they can bring to the table and what they're going to be providing to really step things up and show where they're going to get these trade-offs from. And I think this is going to be the round to do that. The one thing that Jet can have over Raze is that big cannon you hear shooting off back in the background because, well, Nick is letting you know what the answer may be. It's going to be possibly that cannon coming into play, looking for those longer lineups and looking for those free kills that just can't be traded off the tail with.
The disastrous part about this for Nick, though, is that UMass is all the way over on the other side. Thomas ripping through the dimensions, now going to put in a nice little orbital strike from Murphy's. Has destroyed Maddie. Now another opportunity here for them, even ripping out of the dimension. Splash was ready for it to pick off from that, and so the numbers have been evened out once more. Best chance we've seen from Stevenson, all playing together as the team that we know that they're capable of. UMass Beacons, the way that they've spread out onto the site, going to make it so difficult for that to actually come to fruition. Splash is at that low health. Wingsent, calm, cool, and collected, but Thrash is going to send them and destroy them. It is now 3 on for Stevenson. UMass is going to try and walk on there, but this is exactly what they needed. He only has 2 HP. Need to check and clear the corners, but it ain't happening. Not today, not. Stevenson University has anything to say. His patience and the diligence from this team paid off. I liked that they didn't rush onto site, right? They were looking for those ones. They were trying to get those picks. And then once they got them, that's when they were pushing forward onto the site. They were looking towards that aggression from UMass Beacons, maybe getting antsy, maybe filled with overconfidence, paid off in dividends.
Even then, that was more of an answer, just kind of retaliation to the overinvestment of utility, I'd say, in terms of the UMass Beacons already starting things off with that orbital or that sky barrage, and you even then kind of as a follow-up have the dimensional drift. I mean, everything's there where you're saying there's no way they're not going to take this much space. So just go ahead, play back them, come to us. We still have ultimates of our own, and that Thrash was able to find too. So I mean, you got to look at what we're seeing at Stevenson University, being that discipline, just slowing things down and kind of taking on a moment-to-moment notice. Just saying what is necessary for this. Don't get overzealous. Don't swing one by one. For the love of God, that's the last thing we need. Just kind of take it easy and figure out what needs to happen here next. And already on that defensive side, when they're not even pushing up, when they're not playing for the retake, they're still just waiting it out, not really peeking for too much, playing off of information and seeing, okay, how can our back end cover our front guys? Because at this point, we just need them as piece of utility. We just need them as information and nothing really more.
In the commitment of utility, now the commitment of Wingsent on the site themselves. Thomas is going to eliminate Devant. How fast? Waiting for Mosh Pit to blow up at their feet. One shot from Nick, but shots aren't ringing true. Vision Villy. Air shots on the flip side are going exactly where it needs to be done. Maddie, slow approach onto here. Right through the box. Thomas has been dealt with. How much more can this one player do while waiting for the rest of the reinforcements to come to them? And with only 34 HP to clear that close angle behind them, but again, proves to be their demise. Wingsent doing their duty, getting the double kill. In fact, you're even gonna make Nick run away with the operator. Billy, beautiful jump peek. They're not gonna take. Are they really gonna take any more chances than that? Descending upon them from behind. Oh, this is even bigger for UMass Beacons. They've gotten rid of the operator, so a lot more breathing room to work with.
Yeah. It's, I mean, honestly, really worth the risk there at the end of the day. I mean, I really can't blame them, considering you had so much time already. Nick was just sitting towards the back of the map and spawn, and honestly, if you could just eliminate that sight line, once again, I mean, you were working about smokes over and over again, setting up those smokes for that lineup, making sure that player can't cut you off, knowing that that can now just be allocated more so to an actual sight take. That they can be allocated more so to a little more aggression when you're not concerned about that back end or that singular player just having that advantage and the over-looming sense of a single shot kill on top of you. you can really take these fights a lot more aggressively, and knowing that obviously Yoru kind of binds that mentality, it's kind of something that you want to take the aggression and take the chance to really lock down if possible. So speaking of aggression, we're already seeing Ray pushed up extremely far right towards Hookah, but unfortunately can't really find a kill off the back of it when you look at two players present themselves to you.
Maddie being the one to pull forward like that drew the crosshair away, and that actually gave Splash the opportunity to land the headshot with the Vandal. Thomas's flash right through the smoke, then one right to the head of NECC. Wing sent. Thomas have this cross set up, ready to go. Thomas is 4K. May actually be able to convert that into the ace. I mean, Devon only has 5 HP. But Vision Billy, Ansi couldn't wait for it. Gets rid of them, and now UMass Beacons, at the very least, has a secured first half.
That's all they really need here, considering the kind of aggressive start they had to work with, and look at the momentum they were playing off of on the back of the pistol rounds. I mean, I was expecting something like this, to say the least. At least a 6-6, and I mean, with UMass kind of coming out on top, knowing those first 2 rounds going to their way, the way they found the third, even then, the third is always the most telling of whether or not you can actually play from being ahead, having that guaranteed advantage. If Stevenson University only found 2 players off the back of that, you're saying, well, when it looks equal for the rest of this half, what is that going to tell you about them then? And already you're seeing that things are just not looking too hot. Still a good bit of utility to work with, even then a lot of aggression trying to come in through those showers areas, an area that we have not seen too much actual wars of attrition over just yet. But now as it kind of comes to light, we're seeing that Stevenson University, that could be one of their kind of stronger places on the map.
Oof. Beautiful from Murphy's. Get the double kill in Garden, but may not be enough for the rest of the Beacons. This is actually going to pull Stevenson away, though. Force him to go on this counter rotate. No one to anchor the site. NECC has to realize that at some point, maybe someone is going to be aggressing onto the actual site itself, but big crux of the situation, Mick, is you're just giving this up for free. No one has any vision. Ray's going to push up into there. Really, NECC is still covering this elbow.
Smoke's down.
I wouldn't be surprised if he just backs off, but they want to keep going. Even with the smoke in front of them, that could be good enough here to fool Stevenson. Yeah, that's good. That's good. They use Thrash right there. Ray is going to pay for their transgressions of daring to push forward. You're going to leave poor Murphys all behind with only 30 HP to their name. Cruel fate. It's going to belie them quite potentially here. Going to go for the first. Devon has it on lockdown. Stevenson University inching slowly closer and closer to the Beacon's 6 scoreline.
Yeah, I mean, it slowly is going to be kind of the key here, keeping things at a moderate pace to some degree where it just doesn't feel like these rounds are overwhelming. You can't really do anything about it, but knowing the ultimate allocation and seeing the kind of utility available at each team's disposal, the Beacons have a chance to just kind of run through these guys at least for another round when you look at the kind of resources there. I mean, look at the Narrow Theft, the Showstopper, the Thrash available. Stevenson University used Thrash in that last round just to go ahead and at least cover off one of those players to play it safe. So it's these things where even when you're at a number advantage and you're still investing this kind of stuff, not just to play some equilibrium, but nail it in like we're seeing right here, it makes more sense when you actually have equal players on the map. Sure, you don't find the most perfect result off the back of that Showstopper, you still found that presence, you still get that intimidation, you still get that real estate to get that spike down at least.
I'm loving the fight back that we're getting from Stevenson University. These trades are so good. And it's giving them everything that they could ever want, hope, and dream of. The spike still needs to be planted. Delayed shortly by the orbital strike, but finally from Vision Billy, it has been planted. Ray makes their presence known out through lamps. Now in a 1v2. It was so close. It was right there. Like I said, Stevenson University, they know what's up with these trades. They know exactly how they want to try and play through the rest of this defense on bind. Now 4, UMass Beacon 6.
I mean, I'm just happy to see the Stevenson University starting to kind of figure things out. I mean, looking at the Beacons, I mean, they have a lot to bring to the table, and we see that over and over again on a round-to-round basis. They love getting in the face of these players. They love pushing up, but I mean, I think the Beacons, they understand that setting that line of scrimmage right there at the spawn isn't going to work out too well for them, so they kind of disperse themselves a little bit, spread themselves out towards the back of the map, and kind of keep their area of focus there, saying, look, you can go ahead and extend yourself on the site, nearly for free, and we'll just play for the retake. But if you extend past that side, if you want to go ahead and take over the back half of what is supposed to be our area of the map, that's where you start making your mistakes. That's where you start needing to realize where you're overstepping yourselves here. And we see Stevenson University every time they cross that boundary. That's when they start to wake up and really find these just successful kills without any retortion.
Oh, for the flashbangs, but Thomas is shorty. Just a little too short to find their targets. Flash always feeling like they're the ones to save the day as best they can, and even looking towards Murphy's through elbow. Really have to give it up to this player. Finally, their roll has been stopped, but I'm sure they'll take a double kill with a Bulldog any day of the week. But wait, Ray's flank. How far they've been able to push up, but it's not going to be good enough. Stevenson is bulldozing their way against the Beacons. Finally going to be able to go for the spike defuse. No need to do anything else here except for to stick it, but Fast is not going to let Ray forget the name of Stevenson University. Now just a 1-round differential for a tied first half.
Still so much time on the board there. I mean, Spike had just went down. I mean, you're looking at Ray, you're hoping things will speed up a little bit, and they just don't really happen that way. But instead of the Stevenson University, we have now seen 3 rounds accumulate, the biggest spree inside this matchup so far. It's taken them a minute to kind of wake up and understand what's really being presented to them, but I mean, they have hit those strides nonetheless, and that's all they really have to worry about. Knowing they have a Viper's Pit, they can preemptively pop or play for the retake, knowing that the Beacons don't really have anything else to work with. The other thing that's going to be coming up is that neural theft. Realistically, you have a lot at your disposal here to just go ahead and, as I mentioned, just get right off the get-go, utilize to your advantage, and that neural theft also being available, especially if you can find yourself a Cypher, knowing how close he is to that ultimate, and hunt that guy down. You're just robbing the Beacons of more and more resources.
You're feeling it from the Beacons right now.
Here.
How silently they're working on this. Nick, exercising patience and caution. Not gonna work out for them though. Thomas, clean as can be. Now Wing sent to dash in there as quick as possible. Fast.
There you go.
The Crouch is gonna save their day and throw it back in their face. Murphy's walks in, gets rid of them. Thomas heard the TP, walk through it. Flash, gonna go for it. Undeniable the impact that this player continues to have, but it's still in the Beacon's territory. Smoke's covering the site. The spike planted. It's a 3v3, numbers even across all ends, and neural theft is going to gather even more of that information.
They're going to cover off the shoe haul. That's the biggest deal in the world. I mean, already you look at the wingman, able to create a little bit of a stone, but Splash can go ahead and find Ray. Devont can go ahead and close off Murphy's, but it comes down to this last individual. Vision Billy, knowing that Spike is still there, you threw the wingman off early. You just got to make sure to get that denial, but even then, with it going through, you just don't have enough time. It was a little bit too late for the side of Stevenson University. They were waiting on the incendiary. Problem is, you got to find at least maybe a half, or even just look for that little tiny pixel angle that allots you the space to get it done. So 7-5, not the worst situation in the world considering what we saw to start that half off with. I mean, we were looking at what, 6-2 at a certain point. So knowing you got yourself 3 more back to back, that's a realization that really just kind of put you back into this game that you're thankful for. The only issue is, though, this is now the kind of half where we're seeing adjustments are going to have to be made once more. We look at the Rays on the attacking side. I'm going to go right back to Nick again to where we saw that operator take play inside of that first half. While it didn't have too much of an effect in every single round, I'm kind of wondering what the replacement is going to look like on this attacking side, because you just don't bring that kind of gun to this side of the field.
No, you don't. What are we going to look at here? Attack towards Garden. Oh, Murphy's going for a slight jiggle peek. Saw their targets. From the smoke down early and a molly to join it. He's going to go up, but I simply walk right past that. Vision Billy has the bead on their target. In goes Wingman. Slapping through, little buddy. Seeing all that they need to. Billy is not giving this up. Not if they have anything to say about it.
It's too easy.
They drop and Wing Scent thrives. 2 kills from that at the range that they were on. And Splash, even with their flank, more can you really hope for here? Catch someone off on the back end. Haven't even gone inside of the TP yet. With how slow they're working through this, the only thing they're going to be rewarded for with their efforts is that 1 kill. Now Maddie, alone, lost, maybe even a little wary of where they need to go. It's on this B, right to the Lion's Den.
A really difficult situation to put your teammate in. Looking at everybody else in that
30
last
seconds
part,
left.
that B long lineup, you saw the incendiary. I mean, any kind of just disconnect there from your team is going to just go ahead and absolutely put a detriment to what you need to get done. Incendiary creating a little bit of a gap, especially the pistol round where you just either have only half armor or you have no armor at all. That 100 damage is getting melted through, and it sets this massive gap between you and your teammate. So it made the Gecko have to swing up. It made the Jet go ahead and dance back and forth and take half of his HP purely off just kind of jiggling, and everybody else is just kind of left there in the back, realizing and kind of seeing the rest of their team just fall to their despair. So it's a really good reaction there from the Beacons to just go ahead and pop that thing reactively, get it in the timing, and even then for the Stevenson University to know that that's not really a place you really swing more times than not. You wait for that presence to come to you, because even if it's through a smoke, it's damage nonetheless.
Always makes me nervous to see teams default on their second round save in the halves. All it takes is one clean pick off. That's really all it needs, and you're kind of just using classics. I say that though, but accomplishment from Splash, seeing how aggressive Thomas wanted to be off their TV, catches them off the back foot, gets a clean pick off there, and on top of that, big Bulldog, big weapon upgrade.
Always those Yorus, always trying to overextend, look for something early, and it's just like, come on, man. You gotta understand. I mean, there's a line, there's a place and time for everything, and I get it. You want to be that solo hero, you want to be that duelist. That's what Riot tells you are. But let's be real, you're an initiator. Let's calm down a little bit. Even then, more so, one thing that does need to get done regardless is still get that spike down. They found themselves a couple upgrades. They've gotten a couple guns, but even in a 2v2 situation, the objective is still the biggest thing here inside this game. And the classic V-gun lineup. Wow. You still see Ray coming out on top, making sure to get that second round, while super expensive nonetheless. Honestly, I mean, it's still enough, because knowing that you got yourself a really expensive third in that last one, which resulted in you having an advantage, you can be happy with the result in this one, saying it's okay if we get demolished. We have the 3 sheriffs. We're still going to have a buy for the next, no matter what.
Exactly. And I wouldn't be surprised if in the hands of UMass Beacons, Mick, that this is going to be watch your heads, right? Watch your head kind of gameplay. Don't get it shot off. Don't be uber aggressive if you're Stevenson, but you also have your crosshair at that head level. Seen it too many times where teams think they're going to be okay, but that sheriff proves them wrong as can be. Small fight.
I mean, you see the score. You understand that Stevenson University, it's a matter of expectation versus surprises. And honestly, while Stevenson University had to push up, the Beacons, I think they understand they have enough of a kind of a score differential here where you're going to be seeing these kind of a crazy early extensions. Just trying to look for those wild cards. Trying to find the emphasis, trying to use these sheriffs and get something early on, but I think it's the right play here by the likes of Stevenson University. Just run at them. You know you have the advantage. You know you got the better guns. You know you got the numbers. Just have that bullet advantage and spray them down and find an easy round off the back.
Spike planted.
Some spray down going on from Wing Scent outside of Lambs, but you seeing Nick, quick readjustment on the headshot. Wing Scent. How much can you make this bulldog bark? Where's the bite that's gonna go along with it? Turns out it was toothless. Maddie's Vandal cleans up the final pick of the day. And now we have a 6-9 scoreline here. Stevenson University stopping the bonus. Now we're gonna have a UMass Beacons with weapons to work with.
I mean, already figuring things out, at least find themselves at third. Not nearly as atrocious as what we saw on the last half. So knowing that things are looking feasible here, knowing this could be your first round of equilibrium, I'd say. Sure, you still have some differences in armor, but quite frankly, at the end of the day, Phantom, Vandal, everything's going to be a one-shot headshot to some degree, depending on that range that you're working off of. So understanding your lineups, understanding really where your ballistics can start to excel is going to be a big thing here, because once again, it's not the same situation as that last round. You can't really just run at your opposition and expect that to be free. It's Thomas who comes in on top, literally unscathed in that fight, finds 3, and can back up because you didn't respect the flash that was in front of you.
It cost them everything inside of showers. And Maddie doesn't even have the spike. Needs to go back over and grab it. Look at who's waiting. Look at who could be there, was there. They went through one TP, only go into another one up inside of heaven. It's Maddie, a 1v4, all alone. Just over half their health left. Where do you go from here? How do you accomplish this task? What can one person do? Vision Billy finally deciding that, okay, someone's got to pick up the spike eventually. I'm going to go check up on that. Oh, hey, there's Maddie. Now UMass Beacons have a 10th round.
Pushing that double digits, especially with 2 ultimates off the back of it. The showstopper, the dimensional drift, going to be a nice little dynamic duo off the back of each other. Realistically, anything goes well with the dimensional drift.
Especially the way that Thomas is giving us this Yoru, and that's exactly what I wanted to see out of Yoru on Bind, right? These early aggressive plays, but also kind of trying to mess with their minds. Sometimes it bites Thomas in the butt, but it hasn't been very often. And listen, Mick, we got it. Every Yoru gets one, right? Where they try to make that flashy play. It costs them their life, and then they learn their lesson. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe they'll do it again. But for a couple of rounds, they're not going to go super crazy with it. But still, for Stevenson University, that timeout, this needs to be the crux for them to find whatever answer it is to dim the light of the beacons.
It starts once more. Timeout.
Time to jump.
Right before a round where you just don't really have all that much money. I can understand kind of stretching things out, looking for a thrifty, see what you can pull off in a round like this, and kind of giving the teams a little bit of a heads up to say, okay, if you do get something here, this is the game plan if we really start to accumulate these resources. But otherwise, it's just kind of figuring things out, spreading it out, playing it slow, looking at the default, try to get an understanding if anything's changed here. Quite frankly, I mean, the Beacons, they have no reason to change anything. Yoru's been aggressive on that A side towards showers, can go ahead and kind of clear things out, get those free TPs across the map if you need a little bit of a quick answer, maybe some quick backup, most especially. But looking at everybody else, this could be the thing. Not checking these outside, just looking for free little picks here and there and seeing where you can dismantle these guys one by one.
Fast walked all the way into elbow with no one any the wiser about them. And not only that, it gets a phenomenal elimination. Gonna put down Mosh Pit. That forces away Thomas from using their flash. Not just yet. Here comes the first one in. This Frenzy is putting in the overtime right now. Nick was also there on the back end to help out, but you're still getting so much value from Stevenson University. That timeout, giving them so much. Let me look back over here. They've gotten the weapons. They've suffered no losses.
Way.
And now Splash is going to do the exact same thing. I am going to lose my mind. They didn't quite get the right click. They dealt a lot of damage, but then Fast comes up, peeks it out, and gives Stevenson University. The Stings are charging right in.
We'll go again. Damn, you love being here.
Seriously.
Way too much.
That is what gives up that big of a deficit. I mean, considering sure it's only 4 rounds, but the timeout's made. Teams always struggle for anything here, but quite frankly, looking at that entire pass through that went on towards elbow on that B side of the map, it was just given to them. Literally handed over on a silver platter for the Beacons. I mean, you got to understand that they're not in the best buy on the side of Stevenson University. They weren't going to be working with everything. And I understand. Don't get aggressive. Don't get crazy, but don't get complacent, better yet, because you still got to watch those sites. And having not only 1, but 2 avenues given up to get wrapped, not once, but twice. Well, the entirety of the map is just insane to me. But regardless, they still had the lead. They're still choked out maybe at 10, or it could be a checkpoint. Who knows? They got 4 ultimates to kind of make the difference in a round like this.
Vision Villies pushed very far inside of showers. That corner, vital. I think they saw the barrel. They saw it. Nick, right there. Vision Villy finds 1. Fast has the trade-off. Almost immediate in its happenstance. Spike's still back, but it's a 1-for-1. So not true disaster yet for either side. Maybe, though, for Stevenson, without your duelist, that's going to hurt. Actually getting onto the site itself.
Spike drop.
Oh, yeah.
Monster on the loose.
Only really got
that's a
that
good win.
Gecko, but he's got a Thrash, so maybe not the biggest deal in the world. But going ahead and getting shut off and killed. that's not going to look all that hot for you. I mean, you got to look at obviously the beacons. They have an exchange as well. They can go ahead and read out the splash. They can read out the rest of the players over towards showers. They have all the free info in the world, so it makes it easy cutoffs and easy lineups for the rest of the team. Just kind of go ahead and completely dissect them. Whether or not you lose players, you couldn't care, quite frankly, because you're already looking at so much bigger of a score deficit now, and you make sure to guarantee yourself 11 off the back of just one ultimate rather than the 4 that you had available to you. I mean, why not? Just go ahead and press the button and get it done.
That's really what it comes down to, though, right? With Valorant, you just click the heads. The press of a button, it's all done, right?
Shoot heads and don't die.
Careful here.
That's as simple as that sometimes. Yeah, it really was. I also like the idea from Stevenson University on how they wanted to go on to A.
Cutting through.
It's just that UMass Beacons, they didn't rotate off of it, and so they were still there. They had the idea that the aggression was going to come in eventually. We're going to see some aggression from Thomas. Wow. Flash was waiting and expecting. Here we have it once more. Thomas thinking that this TP is going to be safe when it is anything but the word safe.
Still found one at least. Not really a tactical retreat by any means, but still warranted. Still got the job done. Your dimensional drift isn't in play here, so I mean you can't really freak out about that too much. You already now have accumulated 2 of those orbs to get it back. So you're happy with kind of what's happening nonetheless. Stevenson University, you're at a point in the game where you're so close to closing out, you're just trying to hammer jump. You're just trying to really just rob this thing out from underneath their legs, slow them down, make their job and their life an absolute nuisance, which is what you're doing on the defense here. Already, tripwires, Cypher setups, just easy kills through smokes. Not really the round we were expecting, but hey, it's one that Stevenson University's gonna have to take.
Ray got away with that for free.
Yeah.
No one from Stevenson break that trip. Then, when Nick finally perished, Fast got caught in the trip. And so again, it was free for Ray. And then just simply walk on and take your fight against Avant. You've just gotten yourself a massive defensive B-side and a massive mistake here from Stevenson University that is going to give UMass Beacons their match point.
Time to jump.
Bit of a conclusion coming through here, more than likely. Depends on whether or not we can see Splash hit more shots like that.
Tiniest
Already
of
one play
windows.
down. Thomas, let's be real. I mean, was already dying very early on in all these ranks. So whether or not it really come down to the retake, you're not relying on Thomas for that. I mean, you're looking at these early kills, you're looking at these early fights, you're looking for that information. But just the fact that I'm dead isn't really much of a call out. It's more of just say, come on, man, we're looking to close this thing out, and well, you got 3 ultimates to do that. So I do think the neural theft will be almost as usable as a dimensional drip, but it does require that setup of finding your initial kill and praying that your Raze, who is your retake just foundation, doesn't die to find that starter Cinder. Who knows? But already with the 5v4, it's still very, very much doable. It comes down to the commitment on the site and knowing that the 2 players that are here lurking about, they're, well, one of them can look good, one of them can look shaky, because that Thrash is not going to carry on to this.
I can't believe how long Vision Billy was willing to stay inside of the orbital strike.
Right.
But here is where Nick is. Ooh, wing sent. Maddie finally gets their revenge against this player. And Stevenson University seeming like they can stave off defeat, at least for now. UMass Beacons still has a lot to work with, not feeling the constriction just yet.
I mean, we still got a couple more rounds to go to see whether or not we actually see Stevenson University wanting to deny the win of the Beacons, or whether they just want to delay this game even further to kind of see if there's an opportunity that'll arise for them. And already, you know, look at the kind of 5v5 situation, still equilibrium on the field. The Beacons don't really have much left in the tank. This is going to be their last, like, legitimate round, all things considered, knowing the buys that they're working with. And even they're already kind of struggling for stuff. So I think this is the round that they invest a lot more. And when you already get a player picked off right off the get-go, like a Wingsit especially, things just don't look too good for you. Their B-hold has been outstanding. They know the Cypher setup's there, but the problem is Ray isn't on site to really capitalize off the back of it. Instead, pushing up through Hookah, finding a good exchange, making it get 1, now a second, Neural Theft off the back of it. You know where the other 3 players are, and you're just waiting for that plant to go down to see if you can play the denial game.
Oh, they're shooting through it, but his wingman gonna throw off the aim here. Thomas fighting for their life. Not much of a life that we have left remaining. It's Vision Billy, and they are going to do it. Devont is out. UMass Beacons shining as bright as can be on map number 1 of Bind. There's 13-8.
Defenders win.
I would have thought if any map you're gonna bring out Raze, it's gonna be for Bind, but
Right.
Split, I guess, is just where, yeah, well, like you said, Nick draws the line and decides that, all right, this is where we need to make our stand. I'm not gonna dash on the side. No, I'm gonna satchel into there. It's all gonna be under my control and territory. What else I think is interesting to note here for the Beacons is that they, instead of the Omen, are gonna use the Astra and leaning back towards the Gecko as well. We're seeing Vision Billy once again occupying that agent.
It's gonna be a wild thing here. I mean, looking at an Astra, you don't have any real region. The reason we've seen the Omen actually kind of have a resurgence on this map is because of the capability we see now of fraggers being put on that specific agent. Shadow Step allows you to completely bypass any terms of utility. That's just like a jet. You can still provide that team utility to everybody else. The paranoia essentially acts as another flash. He's kind of, as also, when people understand the paranoia and how present it can be inside of the game, it's kind of replaced that breach that we've seen every now and again start to pop up for Split, and that's why he's become so much more of a rarity. So I'm curious to see kind of how that plays here with an Astra. It is one of those kind of 50-50s that we see pull up every now and again, but even then, you look at the kills already going over the direction for Nick to kind of start things off. You know that so long as that spike is going down, you don't really care about the utility as much because you're just holding these angles and hoping that people just swing into your crosshair.
Maddie is keeping a dominant eye. Heaven being swarmed all over. Splash. Fast as can be. Up in Heaven. How are they alive? Nothing short of their own skill. Now seeing the final remaining player from the Beacons, Wingsent. He's just going to jump in and try to do dirty like that. Wingsent's not going to be standing for that, but Nick is also not going to be standing for the loss of their comrade. Coming in to avenge the day, gives Stevenson very first pistol round.
I mean, that's all it really comes down to. Have an answer back, make sure to get a pistol round. I mean, that's what it really needs, and just to make sure to pick up this momentum and get things started off. Because, I mean, you can't really smell out too much early on in these games where you're kind of understanding the defaults. Because on a pistol, God forbid you do that. You got to have that arsenal. You got to have those collective bullets because you don't really have the guns that can spray things down. Even a Frenzy just does not have the magazine size to surmount to that. But if we're talking about magazines, we're talking about bullets, we're talking about arsenals. A Phantom right at the middle of the map will give you everything you need to just completely feed yourself these 4 kills.
Oh, that dog had to have seen everything. Splash is running away with it. Brings out the ghost.
Yeah.
Stevenson University. That is a statement. I know, and they had the weapons and everything to go along with it, Mick, but that could have gone in a completely different direction for the Beacons had they had just a little bit more of a drop on Stevenson. The way that they played that was perfect.
Just absolutely free. I mean, considering the kind of setups we saw already, the players sneaking up, not really speeding things in, and understandably so, but right down the middle of the map where you know that, I mean, teams and players are going to peek there every single time. It's completely detrimental where you just rip nothing out. So this round now becoming that much more difficult because of the guns that are at hand. We already saw that Phantom, we see Guardian. I mean, knowing how close quarters this map, even a Spectre has a massive impact in terms of the gunfight. So, honestly, when you look at these second rounds or you look at these bonuses, usually you're saying, how much was ripped out in the last round? At this point, we're saying, how much can they hold on to and what upgrades are they going to get?
Ooh. Murphy sees Devont. Devont sees Murphy's. The one wants to take that fight, especially not if you're Devont. Vision Billy. Set up with the mosh pit. He's surprised that they decided to use it here. Almost pushed back by the paint shells, and Vision is going to be denied by the smoke setup here. Pushing on in. Back away. Either side overplaying their hand just yet. Going to be Stevenson to make the command decision to go inside of the vent, and it's going to be Maddie's commanding skills to see their way to an elimination with Thomas. That's going to be a big weapon upgrade to go along with it. Vision Billy, Snakebite coursing through their veins. poisoned, but they see
Ooh.
the chamber trip. It's just all hurting them in there, one after another, like sheep to the slaughter. Splash looking all over the place. It's the headshot. Close to getting one more. You really got to give it up to these trips from Ray. I cannot believe how much value they continue to get time and time again.
No, it's definitely a Ray diff. I mean, looking at, just how these setups are going, you see these guys, every time they get onto a site that does have Ray, whether or not you're playing off the back of those trips, or whether or not you're kind of pushing up and finding an alternative angle, you're still within the crosshair, kind of setting up those trips as if they are a crossfire or like another teammate. And it just builds up confidence to know that those sites are going to be carried more times than not by a singular individual. You can allocate resources elsewhere, but even then more so, looking at the guns, looking at how that round happened, and seeing the kind of resources that Stevenson University were working with, and they still don't even rip out the majority of these guns, you're left to think, what can they do when things are equal? What are things going to look like when still we all have purchased up stuff? Sure, we have the Spectres, but those kind of act like Phantoms on this map. Sure, we don't have the same speed, or sure, we already have a little bit of damage, but how much of a detriment is that to you, considering that when you had it in the last one, and even you had a lot more space off the back of it? You got to look for something else here that's going to really get the job done.
Murphy's is holding down B-side as best they possibly can, and in fact, gonna be good enough for Stevenson University to rethink their ideas of how they want to fight through this site, just in general. In comes the first of the snake bites. Ollie down there, Ray spraying through, seeing if there might have been someone off on the back foot from that. Nothing gained or garnered from it just yet. To see the barrel. Wing sent. It's a little too over-eager, gonna cost them their life. Nick flying through onto the site. Murphy gets theirs, immediately traded out by Splash. Looking up toward their high ground, we have Nick. Fast. Going to be the barrier, the one to cause all sorts of chaos in the attempt to even make it up towards heaven. To Swarm, Nick holding their ground. Finds their one. Still two left and remaining. Maddie's flank. Fruition at its finest. And now you're looking at the final few remaining players. Fast has 16 HP, clearing up towards heaven. Ray didn't clear that corner. Fast gonna clear out Ray. Stevenson University finding their third round.
You know Ray's better than that. I'm expecting more out of you, Ray. Let's be real. We've seen you pull off some disgusting things. You being the anchor of the team, and especially on the defensive side of the map. But, it's a retake. Can't really beat you up too much. You're Decipher. You don't have much of utility for that. But if you're your site, we know it's all you all day. But considering already the scoreline going to the advantage of Stevenson University 3-1, it's good looks for them. They sacrifice a lot in these rounds, so I think, quite frankly, this kind of round, it really just depends on how much the Beacons can make this expensive, because we're going to be seeing these constant investments come through from Stevenson University. And I think that'll be their only downfall, is that they need to win one of these rounds definitively. While it looks good for them to have the score advantage, over the course of this game, it just doesn't look comfortable. And that's going to be something that we're going to notice the Beacons can kind of take advantage of when they do find more and more of these ultimates, because that's just going to be free buttons they can press to kind of completely compensate for problems they run into and panic that are going to be thrown at SU that I don't know if they're going to have the potential to answer.
Almost up inside of heaven. Two posted.
Right there.
Incredibly close. I need to see if maybe a headshot could be taken. This is Stevenson playing at their most cautious. No one gonna get caught out by the trip this time around. Cage is gonna be expended. Now rotating around over here. Ray hears the shots firing through. It was close, almost disaster. Almost is not gonna be happening here. Nick is gonna satchel charge away. Maddie got just enough of a look onto Murphy's feet. Now using the neural theft, seeing all of their targets, seeing all of the possibilities. Thrash is gonna weasel and worm their way onto the site before being broken down to his component pieces. Now for three players that are left alive, the Beacons have so much work ahead of them.
Definitely do. Already one of the players have been dinged down a little on the side of SU, but still, that's a lot to ask for. They're in a 2v3 situation now. Might get one, as we do see Wingson being cut down. It all comes down to Vision Billy, and with the wingman available, you can maybe have a second man on the field to help you out. But the only thing they're capable of doing is stunning and getting that fight defusal off while you still fight everybody. So it's still a 1v3. It's still a situation that looks difficult, and that's, well, because it is. In a 4-1 situation, Stevenson University closed out one more to work with, and it seems like they are just figuring out this map on the attacking side. As I said, when it comes around to your ranked games, this map looks abysmal to attack on, but quite frankly, when you get a 5v5 situation, it just makes things a heck of a lot easier when you know you got a game plan coming into it.
Can we give it up to Maddie, by the way, on these lurks? They have gotten so much value for Stevenson University. Even when it comes to stopping someone from rotating or being the one to secure that final pick, their lurk, she has been doing a phenomenal job and knows exactly the timing for that. And the party continues to move forward. Devont gets rid of Murphy's, but Vision Philly's aim is going to see their way towards a pick on to Fast. They only have 5 HP, so I think you sneeze on them, they're gone. And we know how much Stevenson likes to take advantage of all of the time they possibly can. And this always makes the Beacons nervous. They always look in different directions and they're rotating, trying to peek around, and that's cost them so much in its own ways.
With Philly being kind of in that lonesome stance, kind of holding sight, your wingman has more HP than you do at this point. So you still have something to kind of throw out there as a little sacrifice, but all things considered, thankfully you do kind of alleviate the problem and start taking the attention over towards the other side of the map, where you then get everybody to go into Ray's line of sight.
Let Thomas
and
get away
we
with
know
this.
what Ray can do when Ray is given real estate, and also given a lot of people who are swinging him. And get the job done, get a lot of damage off, and I mean, while that could have happened a lot earlier still, round win or loss, for this to be an eco coming into this is an outstanding result, all things considered, where Wingsit can still clutch things up, so long as they don't get the perfect timing on you as you're mid-air, you just can't fire back.
Stevenson also double swung that. It wasn't giving Wingson any ones, wasn't doing anything crazy like that. They're playing together as a team and as a unit, and that's what really feels like is separating Stevenson apart from the Beacons at this particular moment. They're so clean off on the trades. They're so immaculate on their lurks as well. Really, the only one doing their own thing is Maddie. But here's the big thing, is that Maddie is still finding success when she's on her own. And that is seeing Stevenson through so much in their attack half, where we said that, hey, Split is this defense-sided map. You should be able to walk away. You should be able to be smooth sailing at the very least, but at the from Stevenson dominating the map choice of the Beacons, and it's close from Devont. They saw Wingsit right there. Thomas has one of their own. It's 2 away from Stevenson. All they got out of it was the 1 onto the Beacons.
Good opener here from the Beacons. I mean, this is the best result we've seen out of them so far. And it's because it's diverse. It comes from different angles. It's not an outright bloodbath right through the middle of the map. It's not a straight hit, just kind of overextending to spawn on one side or one area. It is just very, very sporadic. It's put in different areas. It's just looking for tick damage. And when you find something, it just makes sure to where it feels like Stevenson University, they have no particular place they can root these problems from. They're saying it just comes from the map. It slows them down and makes them respect you. It puts them in a situation where they have to wait for you to make your move first. And when you're on defense, that's nothing but time. You're just fighting for yourself.
It's a mad dash from Maddie through sewers to get to A. Guess who's waiting for you? It's Ray. The good news here, the silver lining, is that Ray isn't on site. So even if you get caught by the trip, you just get rid of it. Now that's going to be the alarm bell. 12 seconds left on the clock, and Spike is going to be planted. Maddie has to win a 1v2. Not an easy task. Not with the players at hand, Wingson and Ray. Look dominating. Look disgustingly powerful in their own rights, and they proved it right here, right now. Spike is going to be defused. Beacons are finally going to get their second round on the board.
Don't even really get a chance to fight that, which is the unfortunate part. Is even then, I would have felt fine if Maddie got the chance to take the shots, then lost it. But I mean, just getting absolutely spammed through and Kimi get the chance to swing, that's what's just a feels bad moment. But all things considered, it's what happens to the best of us. You know, the plant went off towards screens. You saw the slow rotation. You didn't plant for an area, and you either isolate yourself in that angle, or you kind of put yourself in that scenario where you just get slammed right through. But I mean, going 2-5, not the worst thing in the world. I mean, still, Stevenson University has not hit 6. So there's a little bit of a light side here for the likes of the UMass Beacons. Slow things down. You start to figure the game out a little bit. You're starting to accumulate some of those spree for yourself. So you're saying, okay, we're starting to get the hang of this. And I think, quite frankly, when you see Stevenson University have these 4 wins available, they're going to invest those just to look for number 6, which sets you up for the rest of this half to really start to surmount a comeback if possible. If you can get the hang of these early swings and early aggressions and maybe just find one and get out.
Stevenson's having a tough time to get through these smokes. Again, with the way that the trips are set up, you had to be so immaculate and so fast on getting rid of them. Ooh, Nick is going to get rid of Thomas. Stuck inside of the corner. Paint's going to be pushed out by the paint shells, but their escape is covered by the guiding light from their own teammate. Not only that, they're going to get healed through it as well. Vision Billy on the other side of the smoke. The boom bot just missing them. No information given out from them. Billy's position there is going to be saved. Ray is taking the life of Maddie. Fast has the pick off onto Ray, right back at them. Look at how far Devon has gone in onto the site itself. But Murphy's is pushing back into heaven. Had to have been ready for it, but Murphy's was. That's going to be an extra wrinkle in the side of Stevenson University. Murphy's still alive. Come through that smoke. You're going to have to deal.
Yeah.
With a demon themselves. Murphy's almost alone. Successfully an accomplishment with their cohort Vision Billy. Giving UMass Beacon some rounds strung together in a row.
No worries.
I mean, look, I love Splash just as much as the next guy. I mean, an absolute unit from what we saw in that last map, but I mean, still cannot be your entry under any circumstances. Just does not have the things to work with when you're up against a controller who's sitting on the defensive side. That's where your controllers excel. That's one of the angles where you're having to swing at a smoke, so you just don't really have anything to work with. This guy's still alive, funny enough. I mean, that's that big detrimental point that we talk about over and over again. It's the nerf now. Or those guiding lights, when they're gone, they're gone. They don't regenerate anymore like you do see out of a Dizzy. So you gotta say, and Dizzy would have been nice in that kind of situation, but we don't have the Gecko. And you see these kind of little small differences in utility start to really peel through and really expose these wounds, the likes of Stevenson University, being these circumstances that the Beacons can really just say over the course of this game, we can just make it hit harder and harder and harder and just make the snowball effect accumulate off the back up.
Wingsint, played by their own Astra, was so close to getting the look like headshot or at least a couple of body shot pings, and then they missed their paint shells, sailing right back into their face. You know, Wingsint has ruined the day, shaking their fist at their monitor. This is a bit of a lighter buy that we're seeing from Stevenson University. Nowhere near crazy enough, and oh my gosh, Maddie is that an Iron Buddy? I'm a little jealous, I'm not gonna lie. All right, they see a lot of, oh my gosh. Ray got away with a lot, but so did Fast. They had to have done it. It had to have been none other than them. Push up into here. There's so many different angles and so many different directions. But you have Devon alive. Smokes to close off these different angles, but Fast needs to look behind. You also need to look at this ramp. Here comes the showstopper. It had to have been Fast.
Ooh.
One more to go for the ace. They swing it. They've done it. Ace for Fast and an ace for Stevenson University. 6 rounds accomplished. This half is theirs.
A big checkpoint to reach here for Stevenson University, considering, I mean, they didn't really find that threshold to work with in that last game. They were all sitting at 5. I mean, while 7-5, you can't really complain about it too much. You're not really looking all that hot at the end of the day, but still have enough here to make sure you guarantee yourself an equal game. This is when the things can start to slow down. You've put in a lot of the work right there off the first quarter, but everything past this point needs to be a little bit just kind of insult to injury. You can find 9, you can find 8, especially if you get 7. That buffs out the pistol round. So the job ain't done just yet. It's just getting started, and that makes this entire next half so much easier because you get an adjustment period. You get a safety net. You get a little bit of insurance to work with. And UMass, they understand that. Now being on the defense, they're just trying to go ahead and find whatever's going to be given up to them. Good openers through the middle, working with nothing but sheriffs, but still, now with those guns available, I wouldn't blame them. They just want to give up the site just to go ahead and recover those things to get themselves a better chance at a retake.
And Wingston still has... It's still alive. I think may even be the nuttier thing about all of this. Ooh, it's right there. The Bucky right in front of them. Don't! You going in? The Bucky shot misses. Thomas only lands those pellets right into the wall. And you know that Maddie's not going to miss their chance to take the headshot. No way could that have happened. Wingsent feeling fairly confident off of what they did mid, but how much confidence do you have? Even burgeoned by your teammates. And working with a rifle, that's a little bit better. Wingsent's going to be the tip of the spear to try and give away the information. Never mind, Wingsent has the confidence. Not only that, they have the skills to back up that confidence. Nick has to back away. Nick is going to be detained, but this could be just bait.
Oh.
And that's exactly what it is. Devont played it perfectly. Wingman didn't even get a chance to touch the spike. Stevenson University continuing to solidify this first half for themselves.
Still conflicted on why you don't go for those guns right at the middle of the map. You know, everybody's on site. I mean, the time is already ticked. You had the information out the back of that buggy player saying, okay, I'm taking attendance. There's 1, 2, 3. Okay, everybody's here. So go get something. Go make an upgrade. Make this retake that much easier. I mean, you guys are working with sheriffs, and I mean, sure, Wingston able to find one off the back of that sheriff. But imagine what you got when you have more. You have a Vandal. That's a spray down. That's 2 players you can just find back to back. That's your own coverage that you were working with, the Wingston. Once again, whether it be a Vandal, kind of proved me wrong there, saying even if I have a Vandal, I'm only getting 1, but this is also just the start of the round.
Stevenson University is insane at these trades. Over and over again, every single time they get into an engagement, it's always off the back of someone being there. But not only that, now they've gotten rid of Murphy's. They got that for free. Dog's gonna go in. Thomas knows they need to get the heck out of here. The whole crux of this Viper's bit being put up where it was, they cannot fall. They cannot afford to be taken out. But instead of chasing after them, no, Stevenson University is just gonna let them have it. You can have your mid. We're gonna give our Seekers going there, and this entire B site, Mick, is empty. They are not going to find a single soul occupying this spot.
Yeah, I mean, you see those Seekers go everywhere else except for the B site. It's the freest tell in the world. I mean, at that point, you're putting Thomas in a situation where he's understanding that, okay, they are well aware that that is a solo hold, and even more so, the fact that they already killed Raze towards B main, and then another player towards B main. Saying, yeah, this entire map is just a freebie at this point. I'm kind of confused of why they would give it up, but they make the adjustments where necessary. They kind of get the reads, and all this information is added up into a 1v4 for the likes of Ray with nothing but a bulldog in hand. And we've seen Ray on these retakes. Can't get much done. Well, you can find one. There's 3 more just waiting about, playing off the back of a trade, and 3 players remaining to carry on guns into the next round. You couldn't care about utility. You couldn't care about the buys too much. We know Stevenson University have enough to make it. UMass Beacons are the ones that are really struggling and playing from behind on this one.
Now let's look at Bind real quick. Step back into the past, Mick. That was the map choice of Stevenson University. The first half was 5 and 7. So already, Stevenson University is surpassing expectations on what was their own map choice. And now they're here on the Beacons map, and it feels like they're playing them all over the place. Nick gets over just perfectly, taking no shots, taking no bullets. This showstopper set up the way that it is, shooting a little too close. Didn't get much value out of it, and no space really gained up from it either. They are still pretty much occupying the same positions that they were.
Well, already going ahead and taking control of wherever they need. Mowing guys down left and right, making sure it's a 3v5 turned into a 3v4, and already that's just because you're playing around on one half of the map. That's enough pressure to just go ahead and say, why not? Everybody else is already on B. While you guys are fighting A, we have a spike down, and well, that's time you're quite frankly just wasting.
And not only that, they won against 2 fights from UMass Beacons. Sure, you may have lost Nick, but that's an acceptable loss in a lot of people's opinions. Oh, and they know that Thomas is right there on the other side, jumping in. Maddie is on a whole nother level. Out comes the showstopper. Just like their counterpart, it's whiffing up in the air. Stevenson University, a brilliant attacking side from them, has sailed the ship into a 9-3 first half. My question to you, Mick, do you believe in the curse?
In this kind of situation, I don't know if I really do. It comes down to that adamant about not using Raze. Not saying that Nick hasn't been the most impressive Raze in the world, but still being able to play that role now, especially on the attacking side, and being in a 9-3 advantage, leaves you to question whether or not this was Stevenson's University's plan all along, was just going ahead and letting Bind be available to him as if Split is their main map in all reality, where they actually feel like their composition really starts to fit things together.
Give it up here for the entirety of Stevenson University, by the way. No body from this team is really falling behind anyone else. It's pretty much even across the board, except for Fast, who, well, obviously they got that ace. They are really feeling good about what they've accomplished, and see how far Nick wants to push up and how much that they can get away with. And that's good enough to send the Beacons packing, maybe try to guide a light into a different pathway for themselves.
This round's the chance to turn games around. You mentioned the curse. Well, the curse usually stems from, well, a 9-4, a 9-5, and obviously a 9-6. So maybe you'll run into a 10-6, but the first two are what really matters the most. Obviously, you see Stevenson University start off on double digits right off the get-go. This half, things are going to look pretty dire. But the Beacons able to go ahead and start things off, find that first pick, and knowing that there's a second player somewhere around the map that just cannot recover that HP, you're looking pretty good to kind of close things out. But it's always a pistol round. You never know what could happen. And with no real armor present on anybody, anything's technically doable.
Devont was stuck inside of a Viper wall sandwich here. Splash. Sees Murphy's walking through mid. Taking care of that target, but small strike from Dizzy may make things a little dizzy. Oh, up in the air. Fast is just one bullet away from death. One bullet is all they need. Devont wins out in another battle up towards heaven. How much more do you have left in? You try to even walk onto the site. It's a 1v1. Splash only has 9 HP. Thomas fearing just a smidge better. It's a headshot between the two Vipers is all that is needed. But neither one making the play just yet. See how diligent Splash is going to be in waiting for that opportunity from Thomas. If they can catch them off guard, could have gone in a completely different direction, but they did not. And Thomas sees the Beacons through second half pistol round.
I'm not going to lie, in those kinds of situations, if you have the read, I'm swapping out that Ghost for a Classic every day of the week. If you let them know that it's 9 HP, I'm saying Classic fires a little faster. Even then, I have a chance of turning it into kind of like a pseudo shorty situation where I can just right click, and so long as shrapnel hits them, then I end up winning those fights. And I can do that while full sprinting, because we've seen some insane things out of that gun. But all things considered, sitting at the first round here for the side of the UMass Beacons, they start waking up again, and that's all they really needed. 9-3, now 4-9. It just comes down to winning this round fairly impressively, I'd say. But with the guns at hand, I don't think they're going to carry on all that well. You don't have too many shotguns. You don't really have a Guardian too much to kind of rely on. Bulldogs aren't the most insane thing on this map. So you're going to make this one pretty clean, all things considered, if you want to have a shot the next.
Onset onto B. Relatively fast and relatively quick. Stevenson University has to play their numbers as advantageous as they possibly can. There might be another massacre inside of mid. Stevenson did it to the Beacons. Now the Beacons are going to do it to them. Sit waiting on the other side of this. Wasn't quite able to get the shot. Wasn't quite able to secure the kill. That's where Vision Billy comes in handy. Devont, what are you doing, my friend? What do you have planned with this shorty? You walk out of there. You've gotten rid of Ray. But all of that decayed health is good enough for Vision Billy, even at the range they were at. Pick up that kill. That's Beacons heading out in the second round. Now needs to see if they can do it for their bonus.
A Ghost, 3 Spectres, a Marshall, an interesting loadout nonetheless, but I mean, still feasible in its own right. I mean, I'm curious as to whether or not that Marshall can actually do that kind of carrying potential off a round of back like this. I mean, because you talk about the Outlaw and the kind of introduction of it and how so many people thought were, oh my god, this thing's going to be broken. Realistically, it's just kind of like a Marshall. Even against full armor, sure, it gets him 1, but a Marshall does 101, and that's only 40 damage. So for a Spectre, that's nearly nothing. So still, this round, so long as you understand the order of operations, who takes the priority in taking these fights and getting the damage off, and whether or not you can actually get out kind of scot-free to get these heals off, which UMass, keep in mind, don't have like Stevenson University does. You need to understand what risks are really a lot more worth taking.
Ray comes out of the corner.
So
Boombot's gonna see them. How are they walking away with their life intact?
What?
How are they walking away with a kill?
Poison's off.
In no world, in no universe should that have happened. Devant looking in a completely different direction. Realize how far away they'd walk. Now getting attacked from the heavens above. Down on the grounds below.
Oh my god.
Splash getting outranged by a Spectre. Of all things, and Maddie only has 24 HP. Thomas needs to be ready to go for the fight against them, and they are. UMass Beacons making it work with what little they had. And now, with what little they had, is evolving into something deadlier. Something that should be able to see them through to their victory. But only time will tell if that's going to be happening. Up above, Wingsit waiting for the first one to come out. It's going to be that perfection of a crossfire. And may have just sealed the deal here for the UMass Beacons. A phenomenal bonus round from them, and a 6-9 score line that feels like it may only just be continuing to gain momentum.
Yeah, that's something. I mean, second rounds, you're looking at something, but thirds are always the one to where I'm just left in utter shock. To where you can squeeze that thing out, especially starting things off. Finding a kill with a ghost, man. It's just... It's something. And the crazy thing is that both teams have had their fair share of that in this series so far. Remember in Bind, where we saw Stevenson University squeeze out a round, squeeze through B elbow for free, find a kill. Another player lapping all the way through with a classic, able to probably find something off the back of it. But still, in this map, it hurts a lot more because it's the one buy you had. It wasn't an off round. It wasn't where you had insurance and had a secondary to work with. It was your one buy round where you're saying this is the time that we get ourselves on the board for the half. And it really, really hurts to just kind of understand now that no, it's not. And still, it's insult to injury when you understand that you just can't really retaliate in the next round either because the guns that you're working with aren't nearly what you want. And the best you're looking to squeeze out so far is just a singular.
Maddie has a veritable ocean to swim across on any safety.
Okay.
Good start. You got your headshot, and then you got your kill to go along with it. A couple more bullets is all it takes, or one clean headshot. Thomas has that right there waiting for them. UMass Beacons. It's just 2 more rounds to go here, Mick. It's not a lot they have. And now for Stevenson University, you gotta have the timeout. You gotta talk about
To go off of, quite frankly, because the offensive rollouts aren't really the kind of most complex thing in the world. In these last 2 rounds, it was round number 3 that you had to be concerned about. Round number 4 was just the consequences of those prior actions. And now, round number 5 of this half, it's where the unknown variables come into play. And I think, honestly, you just have to work off a default, play with the guns you got, and just learn from that 3rd round, because they're probably not going to play as sneaky anymore. They're not looking for anything to be given up to them. They're just understanding that, well, this is a game for us to win now, with it being so darn close, that they're going to start to see a little more confidence out of these players. You're going to see a little bit more aggressive swings coming through, especially off the back of these ultimates, if they're there.
Thrash got delayed a little bit. Out it goes. I don't know if it caught information, but hey, Devon's going to catch Murphy's. Now we keep our eyes peeled up on heaven.
There you go.
Maddie's doing it. Another one comes out for the swing. But information is going to be garnered from that. Fast has got to realize that, hey, right there is Thomas. And Thomas had literally nowhere to go. It was either push even more so into heaven. Up comes Nick, but the ropes are going to work against them and throw off the aim just enough for Ray to survive. Crosshair a little too high above the head. That's where Devant pushing forward as far as they did is going to send Vision Billy packing. Now Ray solo by themselves. And even knowing exactly where everyone is on the map, it's not going to do them a lick of good. This player is going to rotate onto ramps. It feels like they're going to try and fight it out here, but the timing that Splash has just afforded has purchased themselves a little bit more breathing room in life that they get to have. Ray's going to have to be the one to set down and plant the spike. Not only that, 1, 2, 3 against Stevenson is what's needed to win this map.
10 seconds
Even the
left.
difficulty here, I mean, is considering that the ton of util that isn't there within your disposal. You already see the triple R back towards spawn. You see one back towards heaven, but you don't see one on site to let you know what's going on. So even then, if the spike just went down, you're already blindsided, and you already understand that this round just is not going to be a win for you. So unfortunate to see that we didn't see a great clutch to get things kind of rolling and still working out here for the side of the beacons. But the good news is they've already won themselves an entire map, and Stevenson University are looking to close themselves out for one here. And off the back of their used timeout for this half so far, they do find a resultant round. Keep in mind, 4 back-to-back. If this is the ratio we're working with in this game so far, we can still see ourselves at least in an overtime best-case scenario. But Stevenson University, obviously, I think they're at the point now where they just want to kind of close up shop. But their money is not going to allow them to do that if they lose one more round.
Bring in for the flash. Nick on the high ground. Nick on the low ground. Wing sent. Sending out the boom bot forward. It's all empty. No one to be garnered from. Dog's gonna come back out. Sees Wing sent over on the boxes. That's going to make them rotate away. Flashbang is gonna come in. Paranoia right there. Throwing all kinds of things into chaos. Wing sent winning out in another fight. 32 HP. All they have left to work with. You've done your damage and you've done what you needed to do. Now on B, Murphy's is all the way over there, and even better, Cyphercam not catching them or seeing them. Maddie has no idea where Murphy's is. If Murphy's plays this correctly, they take out another from Stevenson University. That they are. It was close. But Maddie had the drop on them. Forced to regroup back down on the ground below. He's going to eliminate them there. Vision Billy, quick flick, and a click. Left Avant. Dicey spots. Yeah, they're going to save.
Spike planted.
I like
Did
the
we take the fight at Heaven?
disbursement. I really like that attention there and the disbursement of attention. I mean, considering that you knew that your race didn't have all that much HP, you had somebody go ahead and squeeze through the back lines, and that's your duelist job, quite frankly. It's just to take space. Whether or not successful in finding the kills or not, just getting onto that site. If you've already managed to do that with a controller, at that point you're saying, honestly, just go have fun. Race, go do whatever you want to do. Just roam around the map, go on a flank if you need to. I mean, we're not really freaking out here. You don't have much HP. We don't want you to use a showstopper on a round like this. We're not going to use this Viper's Pit because we already have numbers advantage. So maybe sneak through the middle of the map. See if you can find something extra. Just at least go ahead and confuse them a little bit more so, because at this point, your job has been done, at least in the respective side that you need to go do it. And your job has already been accomplished, whether or not that be by somebody else elsewhere. So to have that read, to keep that many players alive, now have that money still carry over for the side of Wingsit. As I mentioned, the money was the thing that we saw Stevenson University struggling in. And UMass is playing that almost to a T, saying, look, when they're down, we go up. We keep on shooting higher. We keep on accumulating this money because, well, regardless, I mean, you could say that almost for the majority, if not just the rest of this matchup, worst comes to worst, if they do have to play every round, the Beacons still have a purchase for nearly all of them.
Vincent. Splash. Some splash damage from the boom bot. Not enough to really make you scared, but Wingsit knows that someone's in here. They really want to make sure that they at least get the pick off. See how much damage they took even just trying to get up through mid. Only 71 HP. There's still wiggle room. The most important thing. Thomas, location revealed by the spy cam dart. And this time around, Stevenson is anchoring this site as hard as they can. The only thing that gives me pause for concern is how was covering heaven. No one was protecting it. Thankfully, that dog is going to gain the information that no one was there. But all of this space being given up is something that you have to realize and something that you have to recognize.
And
Font.
Still no blood. That's the wild thing to me.
30 seconds left.
Stevenson University is giving so much respect over to the UMass Beacons, not looking for any kind of picks, just waiting for them to cross in these lineups, and even then, as a result, they've given up full middle control of the map. I mean, you already see Wingsit pushed up, understand that B Heaven's under my control. I can squeeze through to the back, find this cutoff maybe. Doesn't decide to go for it, surprisingly enough, considering that already you've done that towards screens. But the biggest thing is setting up enough space for this fight to go down, for the swingman to get it off, because in 3 seconds, that is going there, and they still just don't get it. You had all the space in the world that round, and it just decided not to press W.
It's a Cypher tripwire that did it again. Wingman got caught inside of the Cypher tripwire, and that delayed it long enough to prevent the spike from being planted. Phenomenal work from Maddie. By the way, top fragging, 18 and 12. Eliminated Ray. These Cyphers, Mick, they're just built diff on this map.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on.
I mean, it's not really even then just the setups. Just even then, the fights they're taking, surprisingly working out. Oh, we mentioned the trades for these teams and how they're trading effectively, and thankfully, it seems like the Cyphers are just kind of there to get that last bullet.
Ooh.
Well, you're pushing side like this. I mean, wings it. Who else to go ahead and get things started off? Can't blame them. After that last round, literally waiting till the last second. Actually, sorry, past the last second to get the spike down. You get to a situation, you get a little bit fed up, and you're like, all right, let's prove we know how to play. Because in that last round, it seems like kind of like we forgot.
Now they have the Viper's Pit set on top of the spike.
They found my wife.
So many different ways that you have to try and fight your way through to actually even just get in on there and see how much of the action's happening on ramps. It's one after another. It feels like Wings since 3K. And then a final one from Thomas inside of the jungle of their own making. UMass Beacons, wiping the bad taste out of their mouth from the previous rounds, doing this one in record time.
This game right now could literally be an 11-10 in favor of the UMass Beacons if they just kind of got that spike off. It's just not the case here. Obviously still biting a little bit of a responsibility from what happened in the last round, but it doesn't really bite them too much just considering what happened here. They still get rounds, they still get money, they still get buys. I mentioned it earlier, their money was looking like that was the last of their concerns. They were going to have buys for the rest of this game no matter what. But Stevenson University, the biggest thing they're going to be looking at now is going to be the kinds of utility to play with. We saw the Viper's Pit. We saw now what's going to look like this eco. We even didn't see a player already getting caught out. The gas pedal is now being absolutely floored purely because of the slowness of the nature we saw this team 2 rounds ago that they got to make up for the rest of this game.
Let's back over onto the other side. There's not much in the way of a silver lining going on here. Nope. It's just vents filled with bodies now. UMass Beacons, one more round to go. And this map of split is going to be tied. All eyes on Stevenson University once more. They had a phenomenal lead. One that now feels like it's fallen over to the wayside. It's a do or die moment for them, Mick, to regain their composure and close out this map.
Oh, this is a nice spot.
What do they have to work with to really get it done, though? Besides the buys, besides these kind of mediocre allotments of money, because, well, the Viper's Pit, that could help, sure, but
They miss?
go ahead, have a player flood you out of it. Doesn't really matter all that much. So narrow theft, that's what you got to work with. That'll get you to map point. That's what you need. You need to get desperate to kind of get it all out right now. Find yourself number 12 because the Beacons have a lot more to play with, and they're going to just be throwing every last bit of it at you.
Close for Ray. UMass Beacons can't afford any more losses. Comes the first of those. Ray's still going to hang out here for the moment. Wants to poke the bear again.
Ray.
Looking up in the skies above. They are going to get picked apart by all of Stevenson, is what it felt like at the very least. Someone's got to get back over onto the site to actually protect it. Footsteps are going to be heard by Maddie. That's going to ring the alarm bells for everyone to get back over. Rather than be the one to push in onto that site themselves, they're going to wait for the numbers. They're going to wait for the reinforcements. Spike has been planted, and now we're going to have the Cosmic Divide.
Wow.
Everyone from UMass is going to play on the other side of this. I think the dog saw just enough And Wingsent seen enough of Maddie's head to get them there. Wingsent is gonna hold this bulwark. Murphy's is fallen. Now you gotta leave it to Wingsent and
Oh my
Vision.
God!
They spray it down and spray down the hopes of Stevenson University. UMass Beacons has tied up split 11-11.
Such a huge investment, but I mean, still every last bit of it worth it. I mean, I was thinking, okay, it comes down to this first blood. Is this a 3v4 or is it a 4v2? I mean, and just seeing how things played out, a 5v2, even more worse and more dire of a situation to think of. But I mean, just not even thinking about it, but understanding that cut down numbers one by one. And the wild thing is Stevenson University gave it to them. Going through that cause divide one by one. The spike had just went down. You had 45 seconds that this timer would start to go off. You decide to go ahead and thrash out through it while understandably makes sense. At least get some dizzy, get some info, play off some audibles, understand what you're swinging. But you just give it to them and say that what better than our own eyes. And well, there's a lot of things if your own eyes are getting shut and buried 6 feet under.
Stevenson punished so many of the misplays from the Beacons in the previous round. The Beacons went out in a 3v5. So close, almost in the hands of Stevenson. You know that's got to be somewhat of the morale killer here. He snuck inside. Not too far, still close to Rams. I think has their eyes on it, but
Camera taken out.
doesn't realize just how close Ray could be. And is going to hear all of the footsteps inside of Heaven. One really defending it again. Stevenson University playing it a little differently. And Ray's lurk is going to come up massively. 2 kills over at the side of A. And you've just disrupted the entirety of Stevenson. 5v3 is what it was last time. And now this time for Stevenson, 3v5.
It's not a V. There's no fights going on here. They're just going ahead, running away, saving for the next. This was their last purchase. They didn't have anything to work with barely coming into this round. You know darn well that moving into the next, I mean, this is their last fighting attempt. These 3 guns are all they're really going to have to work with. Because in that last round, the Viper Spit was invested. The Narrow Death was invested. The Seekers, the Showstopper, those are going to be accumulated possibly, but it's still a gamble nonetheless. No matter what, though, best case scenario, you do find a couple kills here, but as I said earlier, I mean, the Beacons, they still have purchases on purchases. They couldn't care less what gets carried over for their team because Wingsett had 9K. Villy has 8.4. Every single one of these players can literally buy an operator as a secondary and still have enough money for a full kit. And there's Murphy's trying to pull one out.
An Astra with an operator. Take my breath away, please. UMass Beacons, one more round. Almost done. And they are going right into the finals. So close. The Grand's just at their feet. One more to go. And Splash is not going to give them the opportunity. No way. Fast, you're playing with fire, my friend. Didn't get burned. Do you know that they're going to give up the respect? They cannot give up Heaven so free and so easily, though. He's going to push inside of it. Wingman and the Boombot. Detect nobody. Devont goes in. The flash out, but they're blinded themselves. Full blind. Couldn't see anything. Their own teammate working against them. Stevenson University now down 1. Players are starting to hemorrhage across all sides. Nick down from the grounds below. Sees their eyes towards Heaven. Fast looking in the 20 different directions that they are being descended upon. Stevenson is nothing less than pure speed to get onto the side itself. Maddie has no choice but to fight back as best as they can. Heaven is theirs once more, but the grounds below are where it all counts. A 3v2 is all that separates Stevenson and UMass Beacons. Stevenson needs to try and bring this into overtime. Maddie's been seen by Dizzy. They need to wait. They need to play this together. Murphy's has gone up inside of Heaven. The first one will be theirs. The final elimination is all that is needed. And there you have it. The UMass Beacons, 9-3, all the way.